What up, what up, what up? How's everybody doing today? Welcome to the Wedding Film School show. I'm excited to have you guys on here today. I got a special guest. I'm going to bring him on right now. We got Kyle Smith. How you doing, Kyle?
What's going on, friend?
Excited to have you on. Kyle just hopped on. I was like, hey, I wanted somebody to do this with. So Kyle said he would come on and join us. And so here he is. We're going to review some films today. How's the season going for you, Kyle?
Oh, it's good. It's wrapping up. So we got a double header this weekend. And I think we have 3 or 4 more left of the season. So not a whole lot, but it's going good.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. We got, you know what? This is like one of my lowest weekends in a long time. I don't have to shoot this week or next week. It's pretty amazing. I only have four films this week.
Whoa.
And I'm
Which
not
is compared to, I think like 2 weeks ago, you had like 12.
I had 12, yeah. So we're excited about hopping on today, and I'm excited about killing it, working on Wedding Film School stuff. Hopefully doing a lot more YouTube in the next couple months. We've been doing a lot more podcasting. We had Larev on this week on the podcast, talking about, I think, 2 important subjects. Did you get a chance to check it out at all? What do you think, Kyle?
I wish I could say yes, but it is on my list of ones to watch. I've been so busy prepping for this weekend, I haven't gotten a chance to.
Yeah. I would say definitely check it out. We talk about working with wedding planners and working with photographers. Lindsay and Cherish, I think, are 2 of the best in the industry at that. I am one of the people who do it. So I think the combination of someone excellent and someone who also does it, I think evens out to a good conversation of how do you maximize working with wedding planners. And so head over to the Wedding Film School Show YouTube channel, or just check us out on a podcast, the Wedding Film School Show. You can listen to LaRev. They also have some cool LUTs that they just released. If you head over to www.larevluts.com, and you can buy the LUTs while they're still available. But in the meantime, let's talk about some films. So we got 3 films today by 3 filmmakers, and 2 of them are very new, which is really exciting. But we got Joel and Courtney Films, we got Back on Top Photography, and Musgrave Media. 2 films, so 3 films. So if you submitted and we didn't get to you this week, please submit again. I know, Brandon, you released or you submitted. I wanted to get to it. We just had already kind of gotten some stuff going. But yeah, I would encourage you to submit again. But those are the films we're going to be doing today. And he said, so the first film is by Joel and Courtney Films. And this is what they say. Bobby recently reviewed one of our films, and the feedback was so helpful. Thank you. We appreciate your thanks, but also we're here to help. We tried to be more conscious of lighting during the day, especially during the bride prep. We also tried to work on making the song transitions better, and hopefully most of it shot handheld with a monopod or Fuji X-T4. I'm a fellow Fuji shooter. We would love some feedback on this film. Help us keep improving. We filmed our first wedding in March 2020. They're based in Brisbane, Australia. This is a 4 to 5 minute film. They did ceremonies, or they did a teaser as well and a couple other different products, but we're going to be watching the 4 to 5 minute kind of highlight film. So you ready for this one, Bob? Or not Bobby. I'm so used to, I miss you, Bobby.
But I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's do this. Okay.
Emma Bride. What a pretty name. Very pretty name. You have been part of our family for a very long time. Ever since you and Liz were little girls and you became friends. Love has made you part of our family. Marriage has made you my daughter. And I love you, my darling.
I like that.
David.
A lot of good foreground.
Did Dad believe I had a crush on you since I was 13 years old? I definitely didn't, but maybe he could see something in us before we could even see it. We started our journey together 8 years ago, and who would have thought that we would be standing where we are today?
I'm a serial charmer, you'd say. Who knew I'd be dizzy with the dame when the bad boys are on parade?
David.
I like the song,
The
Kyle.
moment Emma told me that she was interested in her best friend's brother, I knew this would either be an absolute bloody disaster or the makings of a true fairy tale. You are such a kind-hearted, genuine and caring partner, and it's easy to see that you two are perfect for
They definitely
each other.
killed it with the prep lighting. Everything looks beautiful.
You're my miracle, my sweet contrary.
Uh-oh. Those Fuji highlights right there, breaking up.
Cool in my wild cherry.
That's tricky, though. There's a lot of... It's a pretty dynamic situation.
Emma, it has taken 20 years, but you finally get to marry your friend's hot older brother.
Boy.
But all seriousness, who would have thought the gangly and goofy boy you met all those years ago would be standing before you now, expressing his love and exchanging these vows, ready to spend the rest of his days standing by his side?
In a matter of 8 years, we have travelled together, made some amazing memories, had our beautiful daughter Sadie, and built a wonderful life together. You have shown me more love and brought me more happiness than I could have ever thought possible. And I thank my lucky stars that I'm standing here today about to marry you, the man of my dreams.
Always got a real good thing on its way.
That's cool.
Yeah, I would have liked it a lot wider, though.
Yeah, I'm curious what focal length
Our
they're on.
father was one of the most loving and devoted father of all three of us. While he isn't here in body, I know he's here in spirit. And he'd be so proud of you, Dave. He'd be proud of the hard-working, honest man you are. And most of all, he would be proud of the amazing father you are to Sadie. He'd be so happy you found the love of your life and true happiness with Em.
Wait, the man that I be. Selfish with all the wrong things.
As I reflect back on our days as young teens, when we barely even said hi to one another, I'm reminded of how much I've always admired you. You have always had a kind and gentle spirit, and you have always just been a good person full of integrity. Without me knowing it at the time, me seeing these qualities in you were the seeds of love planted within me
That's
that
pretty.
were later to blossom into the loving relationship we have today.
I feel like the color in this film is really solid throughout. Let's see how they handle this.
Is my favorite dream. Your golden brown canopy. Most things I get than I leave.
Yeah, I like the exposure. It's well done.
Yeah. I'm feeling like I would have liked another song. Yeah.
Has it pretty much been one song the whole time?
Yes. I don't know what happened there. I think the film prematurely crapped out, but that was like the end of it. So, anyway, so really solid film. That's I think let's talk about. So if you haven't seen the show before, guys, this is what we like to do. We like to basically talk about some stuff we liked and some stuff that maybe that can be improved on. It's not even necessarily stuff that we didn't like, because we're not trying necessarily to. We know this is our opinion in some ways. There are some things that are probably best practice in wedding filmmaking, and so we want to help. But in general, at the end of the day, this is our opinion. So very solid. So let's talk about this film. This is, I think, and I mean this in the best way, the standard wedding film. I think this is the film that, like, I would be like, all right, you should. This is above average, I would say, but like this is gonna sell every weekend. This is a normal wedding. I feel like they weren't in this luxury crazy place. Everything was nice. And they did a great job with every aspect of the film.
Yeah.
And I think this is something they can make every single weekend. I think as a
It's
business,
solid. I mean,
as a
it's-
business
you can
person, I
sell
look
this.
at this film and I'm like, this is great. The colors are awesome. I am really big into this colors, except for those speeches, which I think we'll talk about. But I think in general, I'm big into the color. I'm big into a lot of their handheld shooting and just a lot of what they choose to do. Some of the composition we'll talk about, I could have done, maybe had a little bit of a preference. And this shot right here particularly is kind of blue, but in general throughout the film, I also really love the colors. And I like the song, even though I think, like I said before, I wish they had switched it up a little in the middle. I think you could see like their taste. These people have cool taste and they have cool style, and it came across.
Yeah, it's got some of those European vibes. I feel like it's got a almost like a little Philip White inspiration. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The exposure was well done. I like the framing of the toast and the reaction. I think everyone's eye lines are correct.
That shot is really
in terms
nice.
of everyone's
It is
looking
too.
at each other. The exposure and treating the highlights is good throughout, in terms of not like blowing out backgrounds and just kind of like letting things live where they are. And yeah, I think it's a solid, well done film. The audio sounded good.
Mm-hmm.
It was
There was nothing glaringly bad at all, and so I think in the
No.
parts that, like, the vibe was solid. I think too is like that's a tough thing, is kind of get that vibe down. where you're like, oh, these people have like a knowing coolness to them. Like they're going to be able to handle a wedding. And, you know, I think like elevate that couple. You know, I think that's part of that's how I perceive my job, Kyle, is like, can I take you and give you the coolest version of yourself back?
Right.
In a wedding film. And I feel like they did that with this couple. They made them seem cool. They made this guy seem charming. They made this woman look beautiful. So let's talk about some things we think can be improved.
Sure.
Because that's really what critique is, right? So I think the biggest thing I'm noticing in the film is a lot of the frames are cropped very strangely. And you had something you pointed out to me. Why don't you tell what you think happened with this edit?
Well, I think from just my observation, it looks like the letterbox was placed on top of the footage, but left at that point without maybe readjusting the image behind the letterbox.
Yeah, so if you don't know what a letterbox is, it's basically the black bars.
The black bars on top and bottom, yeah. So I would recommend, if they hadn't, to go back and just readjust a little bit so that foreheads aren't cut off awkwardly. But I think that's part of why it looks a little weird.
Yep. So I think a lot of the composition, I would be curious what lenses they were on. A lot of this to me looks like 85 mil or something, maybe 50 mil really close. I don't know, but the compression to me looks a little more. So maybe even like a 7200 or whatever that is on the Fuji version. But I look at it and go like, I was speaking full frame equivalent. I literally, I still call the 20, like a 16 to 55 APS-C Fuji. I'm like, oh, can I have the 24 to 70, please?
Yeah.
And my assistants are like, what are you talking about? But I look at this one and I go like, I felt like a lot of the composition was very much like almost there, but not quite. Like I was looking at this sequence right here with this really beautiful window light.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just feel like I'm looking at like that frame to me. I want to see them. Like I'm okay with one or two shots of that, like them looking out the window, but I felt like it was a missed opportunity. And I felt like I never really got like that big payoff shot of the couple really connecting. And like, I was all like abstract close-ups or just the big wide shot of them like doing kind of a cutesy kiss. I wanted that really nice mid shot where you saw the whole couple and they're interacting and connecting. And then the other thing I noticed is a lot of your shadows in the ceremony, like this right here was one treatment where the groom is talking, right? And that's white balanced correctly. But then when you cut to the shot of the bride, it's white balanced incorrectly. And that's in the same environment. And so I think when you're showing people in the same environment, you need to make sure that your colors are consistent. And so even if you need to like change your white balance between shots, you should do it. At least change it in post. But that stuck out to me as well. And again, she's cropped kind of funny. You know, she's way on the edge of the frame. I felt that, you know, her head's cut off a little bit. Like I feel like just kind of getting more intentional with what you're showing and how you're showing. And the last thing I was going to say is I really felt like a 60-second high energy part at the end would have helped the film. I felt like it being that emotional and slow the whole time, I think it could have used a little energy.
Yeah.
That's my feedback.
Agreed.
What about you?
I agree with all that. I mean, I think there was nothing else that was left unsaid. Just more intentionality with composition and minor tweaks of not exposure, but white balance throughout.
Yeah, there's a couple white like exposure things, but I want to be like gracious to those because you're shooting in that ceremony and like she's walking down that aisle, and if you don't, that's a serious, like literally from this part of the frame to this part of the frame. You know, you're having like he's going out in and
yeah, that's tough for anybody, I think. So
yeah, I would probably just say with this camera and just me as a Fuji X-T4 shooter, I would lean slightly underexposed. You can recover that pretty good, but this camera, it's very brittle on the highlight side. So I would try. I still overexpose that camera all the time because it's got just the hideous screen. Great skin tones, but really, really rough on the highlights. And so you just got to watch it with that camera. But it's a really good film. And thank you so much for submission. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and post their link over so you can just check out their work. Go give them a follow. It's Joel and Courtney Films. They did a great job. These people are very solid. And hopefully they're going to be people we're going to keep hearing from here on the Wedding Film School show and just in general. It's great to see filmmakers getting better and trying new things. So we got a couple new filmmakers coming up. And I'm excited about these ones because I love working with people who are new. So this first film is, or this next film, second film, it's Back on Top Photography. You're in the chat. I saw that. He said, it's my third video, second paid, and it was a beautiful day.
So funny, Back on Top, I actually watched his film, I think like last week, this one in particular, and gave him a little bit of feedback already. So forgive me if I repeat myself.
Oh, no, I'm depending on it. I'm counting on it. You know me, I'm not that good at critique. I kind of keep to myself. Don't really... I don't like to spread my...
You don't say your feelings.
No, I'm like a very repressed person. So
Yeah.
So anyway, here we go. Back on Top. So I want to just pause it here. It's still going. What are your thoughts on just this little sequence right here, Kyle?
I think it's a fun little,
real thoughts.
fun little thing that a gimbal can do. But
yes.
my personal opinion is, I can never find a way to really utilize it in a wedding that's intentional. I think it's,
I think the fact that
it can feel like a gimmick almost.
The fact that the hands are the focal point, but they're not the center of the axis, really is one thing. I think the fact that the sound, I think those are sound effects, are very heavy-handed, and then I think it's just too long. Like there's so many. I don't think you should have.
Clip,
I don't think it's an appropriate shot for the couple or the wedding. But I also think even if you're going to use it, you can't use it this long. So that's that. Still going though. Like there's some facial expressions that like are fine when they're in passing, Kyle, but when you slow them down, I tell my team all the time, I'm like, play that one full speed. You don't want that person frozen in that face.
We joined together in this beautiful place to celebrate the marriage of Emily and Jared. Love has brought them together.
Was he chewing gum?
Just as our love
Yes, I
for
think it was.
them has
So this
brought
is a weird continuity thing to me. I was watching this before and just she's walking up and it looks to me like those tables there are in the same frame. And I keep thinking like she's going to come around that corner. But then when you see them walk, it's almost like they moved the chair or she was coming from, but it's a shot continuity thing. And when you show something like sequence, and you're trying to give a person almost like a sense of where they are in the environment, I think you got to be careful with shot continuity errors, even though it might not be. It feels like it. Like almost like the 180-degree rule, right?
We're about to take a new step forward.
Like the way she's walking around that corner, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on there.
And joy in each other and in yourselves will only deepen as time passes.
Did he share the kind of camera that this was shot on?
No, he's in chat though, so we'd love to know what this camera was shot in. I can tell you that the export was in 29.97.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like to me that the film was shot in 30 or 60 and edited in 30 or 60, which I think...
Is that Nikon? Z6?
Yes, that's an Nikon. So it looks to me like it was shot and edited 30. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if let's see. Are we correct? Is that a 29.97 frame rate, the whole film? Back on Top. Anyway, let us know. But yes, I do think it's got a little bit of a, it's not a hard and fast rule, right? But hey, what's up, buddy? It's not a hard and fast rule that you have to shoot 24 or 23.98, but I do notice it when people shoot other than that, don't you?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're like a newer filmmaker, the reason why most filmmakers are shooting 23 or 24 is because film in the old days, 35 millimeter, was typically shot in that 24 frames per second frame rate. And so 30 is where like video cameras were. And so it looks a little bit home camcorder-ish when you shoot 29, but really when you edit 29 in that editing timeline. So I'd also love to know what you edited in back on top, because you really want to, if you put it inside of a 24 frames environment, a lot of times they'll interpret the frames for you, and it will look that way. And if you shoot 29, you'll actually get a little bit of ability to slow it down a little bit. So
just a smidge. Yep. I would say pay attention to exposure to a little bit blown out whites.
Well, and the other thing is like
the reflection shot, you got a truck in the background, so I would probably switch my angle.
Blown out whites, and just in general,
Chairs are a little hot.
You got to put, it doesn't look like he has a gimbal, so I'd like to know about that as well. Or if it all handheld.
Well, I think I told him, I said it looks like it's either gimbal or trying to walk with it.
It looks like walking to me.
But just do like a monopod and, master the monopod and composition. And then move to gimbal once you've kind of figured all that out.
Zach's Life Productions, I would say head over to our website, weddingfilm.school, and submit over there. So the other thing I'm noticing is this song is just looping. And it is boring. That's why we're talking over it, because it's such a boring song. And I'm seeing a lot of in this film, and I think this is a big thing, and this is an editing thing, right? Is like when someone who's a little more inexperienced is shooting, in the old days, people would, oh, buddy, that is Kyle Smith. Everybody, we got Kyle Smith here from 87 Smith. So,
hey, buddy.
So in the old days, there was a thing called handles. And handles were basically they would shoot a little extra on the beginning and end of a clip so that when the editor who was editing film, they would cut it and pick up the handles, right? And so it gave people the ability to literally more editing capabilities. But I think in shooting, in modern shooting that we're still doing, it's still good to give yourself handles, because you want to be able to cut things with a fade or things like that and not have what's happening in sequences like this where you maybe didn't want to do this. Maybe it's fine. Maybe you had plenty of handles, but like I can see
the swing.
Yep, right here. So I would say give yourself a little bit of handles on your shooting, and also just don't include stuff like that. Even
in editing, you could just cut it like 2 seconds earlier.
This shot right here, it's kind of like meandering through the frame, right, Kyle? It's like,
yeah.
It was like, is that the shot or is the plant the shot?
Yeah.
It's like make everything one intentional move and all that stuff. Don't give yourself nothing to edit with. So that guy's crying. He's hugging. They're all crying. This is a good emotional wedding, good emotional moment.
Yeah.
It is an expression of intent. The promises at the heart of this bond will
That's not the right focus.
A marriage.
Okay. So I would say you should be shooting like at least 4.0 if you're doing 3 people like that, right? What do you think about that, Kyle? How do you handle that scenario?
In terms of this direction?
No, right here, these people are out of focus.
Oh yeah. sometimes I question myself whenever I'm filming. I'm like, should I focus on the person speaking and then the bride and groom are out of focus, or just keep it focused on the bride and groom?
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion is like,
or just change your aperture so everybody is in focus, because you're talking, what is that, like 3 feet of space that you need to account for?
I would defer to definitely having them all in focus.
Yeah.
Because I think, first of all, what is this shot for? This is like documentary style shot. You need to be able to accommodate for everyone speaking. Anything happening, something happening. You never need to, like, what if that guy just starts weeping?
Well, and this is locked off, so I would imagine that he's manning the camera he's on somewhere else, so that when, like you said, if he starts crying or something happens, they're going to just be out of focus.
My philosophy is I want to be able to sell anything I shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm not shooting a highlight, I'm shooting an event. And like, so I look at it and go, like, what is going to make me super irritated in post? And if everyone's in focus, I know I have no issues. I also think you should have swung it a little bit to the right so you're not having the face blocked off. Yeah. And then I think an editing thing that I always tell people is, like, when you're cutting consecutively to 2 shots that are similarly composed but actually different, that I think is an editing mistake right here.
Kind of like a jump cut.
Yeah, it's just like, that was like center aisle
center
handheld,
to center.
And then that's shifting a little bit. I would have maybe used that angle if I was going to cut.
Yeah. Make it different enough to where it feels like you're in a
I
new
think
spot.
too, it's fine to show that jump cut between the rings and not have to show that weird transition where they're like fading.
I'm thrilled to pronounce you lifelong partners. Jared, you may now kiss the bride.
Audio's pretty solid though. I think they did a good job. I mean, not that people can hear it because I'm talking over it, but oh, you missed it. That was a nice little moment. Oh, he's kind of swaying around, kind of just unintentionally.
I watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking? And I can't.
I would be curious why he's just panning through people.
Yeah, I think I think that's what I did when I first started. I think that's a new, someone who's new is just trying to capture everybody there, and you're on a tight lens, so you feel like you've got to pan from left to right to include everyone. But I would say forget the whole clip altogether.
Well, also just I typically
or just focus
say
on one person.
Think of it like a portrait and shoot it like a portrait. Just kind of set up a nice photography look, a shot that would look good as a photo when you're doing portraits. So like, you don't want to be, I don't really think panning through people is a really professional looking shot. So I think just getting a nice composition, getting that group of people in one frame and then going, would be a nicer shot.
But smile. Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on. I put my
Back on Talk said I should have got more B-roll. And you know what? I have 2 schools of thought on B-roll versus family photos. One of them is, family photos suck and it's not that interesting and it looks weird in a film. But then on the other hand, I'm like, when else am I going to be able to contextualize these people and know who their family is? Right. And as a wedding filmmaker, that happens sometimes where it's like, oh, my grandpa, can you give me a shot of him?
Right.
Who's your grandpa? I don't know if I even got him. So I have mixed feelings. So my rule, Kyle, is I'm going to get a quick shot of everyone who came to the thing. I'm not going to necessarily get every group, but I'm going to make sure I get them represented. And then I'm going to go do my B-roll and all that stuff. But I think you do got to build that into your schedule. And I don't think some people are like, don't shoot family portraits at all. I don't really think that's the right move. What about you?
I don't really shoot the actual like grouping of the family portraits. My back is usually turned and I'm getting them either waiting for their time to go up. So they're more casual in nature.
But it's a valuable time, right?
Oh yeah, because I'm just like you said, I'm identifying who people are. Because outside of that moment, I don't know. All old people could be their grandparents. I don't know. So I'll stick around for a few minutes to get an idea of who's who, and then I'll probably dip out and
Yeah, you don't need tons of
kind of
it.
spend my time doing other things. Right.
You
Just
definitely
enough.
don't need to feel like you're there the whole entire time. And I think that's you should feel released to, like, once you make sure you've kind of covered your bases. But and actually Lindsay just said, I think it's Lindsay, it could be Cherish, I guess, but Lindsay just said one of his favorite parts of the day is family portraits. I like to film the people sitting and standing around as they interact and have their photos taken. And I think there's a lot of different ways to cover that. I think remembering you're making a family heirloom is important, and it does help a lot. So there's a value there, but maybe just definitely you don't need to spend 40 minutes there.
Correct.
And I can't help but feeling just loving this moment. Can we
I'm looking at these woods, and I keep thinking, Kyle, how much nicer would it be if he got away from the same location he was already in and walked a little bit, 10 feet into the woods?
Switch it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this film needs a couple wider shots, and it also needs a different environment.
Just variation. Just
Yes,
variation.
more. Yeah, a lot more.
I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop
Cute couple.
time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm
They're in love.
just loving this moment.
See that?
Can we stay here
See that
forever?
fence back there?
Yeah.
Take them by that
Go to the
fence.
fence.
Go to that fence. And like back up a little. You don't need to be in their face that much. Like,
And for a moment like this, it's clearly like a photo moment where they're just kind of they just have their eyes closed. And
look how
and
strange
they're-
that man looks.
Yeah. So I would probably focus more like maybe on her shoulder or her hand on his head, and we'll just get like really close for that, or just kind of reframing it a little bit.
I mean, the big thing is like you're looking for natural interactions and in between moments. There's a lot of posing I don't put in a film, but once they're done with that pose and they start laughing or like interacting,
that's the stuff.
That's what you need to be putting in. Like a lot of these like frozen, like there's some stuff in there where she's like looking at the camera and it does not look flattering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, photography can be that way. So getting people to come alive on camera can be hard. It takes skill. So I don't ever, if you're new as a new filmmaker, this is going to be one of the last things that you develop. But I would say one thing you can do is try to not include some of that stuff and include more of the in-between, like live moments and not all the just straight up, my eyes are closed posing. I don't understand why you would ever pose a man like that. That is a bad pose. Like if the photographer's like, close your eyes and stand like that, it doesn't look flattering. I don't understand that pose.
Forever.
I like that though. That's great.
Forever. Forever.
Ooh.
Cabernet.
I watch you as you sleep. You don't.
Yep. So we're gonna. Shoot. Why is this having issues with my downloader today, guys? I apologize. So there's a little bit more of the film of the dance, but it did not function properly. So I apologize, guys. But either way, I think we watched 5 minutes of it. So I think here's the deal. There's a lot in there that has promise. So I would say for sure, let's talk about what we liked, and then we'll talk about what maybe they could be improved on. So why don't you go first, Kyle? Because I know you've already got a head start on this one.
I think I like the fact that there was a lot of couple shots in there. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in a lot of areas. I think you captured the couple well, but what I didn't see was a lot of guests. I didn't see a lot of family members besides them walking down the aisle. It was very couple focused. And so I think one of my suggestions was just to turn the camera around sometimes and just get guests either sitting down for ceremony or interacting for cocktail hour, interacting with the couple, just to see that there were other people in attendance rather than just the bride and groom. but just more intentionality with shots and knowing when to shoot and where to shoot. Giving yourself a little bit of leeway with editing and I think that's kind of my overall thoughts.
I think if you want to shoot the way that you're shooting, you gotta get a gimbal, and if you have a gimbal, you gotta learn to operate it better. And I think in a lot of ways, when people are using gimbals and they're a little inexperienced, there's a lot of joystick stuff. And I tell my guys, like, don't touch that freaking joystick. Use your body.
Yeah. And I think there's like this feeling like you always have to be moving with it.
Yep.
Because you're able to. And I think sometimes that lends to mistakes of, again, intentionality of like, why are we moving? Why are we going from left to right? Why are we going from in and out?
Intentionality,
like, just hold it
right
still.
here.
I think it's okay.
This shot, you can see the feet, the steps, the chairs are super overexposed, and then there's a giant tripod in the background. Like, you got to take that moment and say, what am I trying to do here? What am I showing? Oh, shoot, my tripod's in the background. I should go move that. You know? Oh, shoot, this is really steppy. Oh, I should just do a lean instead of like walking 4 steps. Like, everything about this shot is this is a good example, because it's like, I looked at this and I was like, oh, I really like this idea. Kind of going through that little foreground to show the ceremony location. I think it was a beginning of a really nice shot. And if there's a little more intentionality, I think it would have been a lot better. And so I would also say to them, like, there's a lot of overexposed shots in this film. Lots of them. Like, even later in the film too, like when you start showing the table details, like this shot right here, he's super overexposed.
On the flower, on the table.
So I would say in general, like, when you look at what is my exposure, kind of thinking about what is going to get priority for a correct exposure in this frame. And I look at it and go like, well, the flower, like,
that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, the plant isn't overexposed, but the flower is really overexposed. Just the same shot over here where we're showing the ceremonial location. Well, the background's not overexposed, but the chairs are super overexposed. And that tripod, again, all your crap's over there. Like, I just think like the bouncy, all that stuff. I think if you're using, are you using a gimbal back on top, or are you shooting handheld?
I think he is. I think he is on gimbal.
So you got to learn the classic heel toe walk, the gimbal walk, as we say. You know.
Yeah, and it takes practice. I mean, I'm still practicing mine.
Mm-hmm. And also, less is more. Like, if you can push it without walking, like, do that. You know. So yeah, I think the editing needs a lot of work. It's very, but I think that's the type of thing where if you give better content, you'll edit better films. So I think you should focus more on like giving yourself a lot better B-roll and a little bit more diversity in your focal lengths. Even if you're just moving back and forth with your body, and then worry about the editing later. I mean, there's some editing stuff. I'd love to see another one of your films, by the way. So, any last second kind of stuff you want to add, Kyle?
I think we touched on it, but just like you say, with the tripod and stuff in the background and some of the reflections in the mirrors, just paying attention to what's in the background that maybe you're not focused on because you're like, oh, I want to get this shot, but just like, you know, do I see exit signs in the back? Do I see a truck, or is there a trash can in the back? Like, always paying attention to beyond the subject you're focused on, like what else can be seen, and maybe repositioning yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's wedding filmmaking, right?
It's little things.
It's about presence. Where am I? Yeah. What's going on? And a lot of the big thing when young filmmakers are there is like, they're so focused on the shooting side of like, what move am I making with my camera, and did I get my settings right? And a lot of things that actually don't really matter as much as maybe what am I actually filming.
Well, that's why I like doing handheld stuff, because it forces me to just pay attention to my composition a little bit more, because I'm not focused on if I'm moving left to right or.
But even if you're taking a gimbal, right? You're thinking, what am I trying to shoot?
Right.
Like, okay, I want to keep this person in the center of the frame, right? Okay, that's a shot. That's an intentional shot. If you're say I have a couple and I'm like, okay, I want to do some telephoto gimbal work. I'm gonna get on that 70 millimeter zoom, and why? Because I want that ocean background where I'm shooting on the beach or something. I want it to swish in the background behind them, and I want to show more of the background, but also some dynamic motion by the couple. So I might be like, hey guys, I want you guys to pick up and spin her. Yeah. I'm planning that entire sequence. I'm thinking about my background, I'm thinking about my couple and the action that they're making, and then I'm thinking about my body. But I'm not going like, oh, what am I going to do when I pick this camera up? This. Yeah. You know? And I think that's what people struggle with, is like they don't really have a plan. It takes a while to get there. The day has to slow down for you. When you can see that fastball coming your way, then you can hit a home run. But when you're just in the batter's box and you're shooting and everything's like moving a million miles an hour, it gets a little tough. So I would say slow down a little bit, make it a little easier for yourself. And I think you're going to have a much, much better result. Keep submitting films, by the way. I think you got something there. You got talent. And I think if you keep pushing, I think you're going to get somewhere. So,
yep. Agreed.
Awesome. So here's our last film today. And this one, I think it's actually their very first wedding film. They seem kind of young too.
There we go.
Which is great. And it says the gear used for the day was a Canon 5D Mark III. So that's part of why I picked it, because I was like, I shot on that for many years.
Yeah.
He was the only shooter. The audio Zoom H4n also I used.
Okay.
Amazon Glide Cam. Like this film was like this was like a film made like 6 years ago, which I love. For lenses, 35 mil 1.4, 70 to 200 2.8, 14 to 28 or 14 to 24 2.8. No lights. Borrowed a Mavic Mini, and this is just like a really low key thing. So the client was his sister, and it was a gift for her.
Oh.
And so I think there's a lot about this that we're not going to watch this whole film, guys, because it's like a 10-minute long film. But I wanted to just help this filmmaker because I was watching it and I was like, you know what? I want this person to make more wedding films. That's kind of one of my goals all the time, Kyle. Is like make more wedding films. Don't just make one. Make lots more. Keep going. So you ready for this one?
Let's go.
So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna kind of skip around a little bit on this film because it's pretty long. But we'll kind of watch I think it's like 3 or 4 sections. We'll watch like a minute or two of each section. Yes.
That font has to be smaller?
Well, no, it only gets bigger from here. See, it starts
to be smaller.
So the first thing I'm going to say is we'll pause it and then we'll keep going.
All right, clear to 8,000 United 328 Avenue.
So that you can't do that. Like the font zooming in, like I guess you can do it. I wouldn't recommend having.
Got some old school vibes to it.
It's just very it's like classic. It's let's say it's cheesy. It's cheesy.
Yeah.
I'll be a warm place to lay when you're feeling cold, and I'll be all in.
So one thing you're gonna see with this one, Kyle, is like kind of a lack of intentionality with a lot of the shots included. Even just the way it's shot, it's kind of just like
it almost gives me like if I were to ask a bride, like, hey, can you give me some like home films that people shot on their iPhone?
Yes.
As like supplementary stuff.
Like right there, including that font there. That is not good. Like if you want to say,
it took some work to track that in there.
I know. I think it did the work on the wrong thing. And what's interesting is like right after that, I think they're showing a shot. Like use signs like that to show dates. If you really want to, that's why we show invitations. That's why you're showing that stuff in a wedding film, is to give a person a sense of time and place.
Time, yeah.
You don't need to just put it on the screen. Like don't add it, show it.
A smile on my face. I won't be perfect, but I promise
Ooh.
Ooh.
Like, that is not a flattering shot of that anyone involved.
I would say generally hair and makeup stuff, I'd get like finishing touches.
And it's a little different because he's related, you know, and so
Yeah,
I understand like wanting to show more and stuff, but like,
Ooh, a little swoop. Careful with that shirt.
excuse me, I feel like the bride. Well, no, okay, that looks bad. That TV in the background, you gotta,
Yeah, cables and cords.
you gotta get a person in better light. But I felt like up until this point, the groom prep was actually, you know, pretty solid, pretty to standard.
The unaware, bunny-eared man in the photograph. I'd give the whole of my heart if it means you.
So something like that, when a bride's just like talking and kind of, you know, like I don't think you should include. My opinion, Kyle, is like, I just try to never include a shot where a bride doesn't look her best.
Yeah.
And I know, like, in general, like, it's not that people look bad. They're just talking, you know? But, like, I'm wondering, like, are they saying, like, oh, I don't like how this veil falls? Like, it could be a non-positive moment that you're kind of making them reflect on. I think showing people looking their best, that's pretty good fundamentals with wedding filmmaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to skip some of the prep. We'll get to this part. But there's a couple of shots here that I'm like, I want to show this one.
It's a sweet location. Golly.
Really sweet location. I keep thinking, like, man, I wish I was shooting at this one.
I know.
This drone shot is super elevated, right? And then
Yeah.
we're kind of, you know, I like that frozen lake. Really
That's
cool.
great.
Man, I would have
Yeah.
done some lay flats of that ice. Like,
That'd be cool.
four brides all getting married.
Oh.
Like, this is all over the place. Like, if you're shooting on like
in.
that, I can.
Whoa!
This looks like
It's almost like an FPV drone.
yeah, or it looks like one of those rides you go sit in and like when you go to like, you know, Busch Gardens or something, and you're like sitting in this. I think it's moving. Like you don't really want like. First of all, I think the movement is bad. I don't think you should include it. I think that would have been a lot stronger if you just shot the mountains and they were exposed properly. But also, I don't know why he flies past this officiant. Like, you could see her looking and going like, what's happening here? Right? And then you could also see that H4N on the rock in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say don't include stuff you don't have to include. And so speaking of, coming up in the next frame. So
I like that they're trying new stuff.
Me too.
Trying to think creatively. That's gonna yield well in the future.
What I often find with people like that is like they just didn't get there soon enough. They're like barely getting there. They're kind of letting the couple set their schedule. And so they're showing up, they're like, I gotta get the shot. And like the way we get these shots as professional wedding filmmakers is like we give ourselves time to shoot it correctly. So I would give yourself a little time. But a shot like this where the groom's like coming down, he has his sunglasses on. He's kind of like, oh, where should I stand? Should I stand here? Oh, okay. Like
a little confusion at the end.
Yeah, you just don't show that stuff. This is good. He's crying. That's nice.
Great.
That's good emotion.
Yeah.
This is a really nice frame too. I like the foreground. They look.
Except for the cart in the back.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. Maybe you could just crop that in there. I think also like, I know it's your sister, but maybe don't get that close to their boobs, you know, in post, you know, like you got to think through every part of it when you're showing a couple on a camera. And when like they get close to that, like I would cut away. I'd be like, hey, cut before it gets like takes up the whole frame with just their chests or something like that. Nice frame. That's overexposed mountains. I wish they were not overexposed because they're beautiful. But we're gonna skip ahead a little bit because this film like it really slows down.
I haven't heard any audio. Is there audio that they put in?
Not really. No, we'll try.
Or is it just like a music? Okay.
It's a little bit right here.
Oh, there a little bit.
Karen? With this ring, you marry Trey and bind your life to his.
Good
It
shot.
is a symbol of your eternal love,
A little bit.
your everlasting friendship. No, I can't get it off. Your
What's on that
everlasting
tripod in the
friendship
rock? Is that audio?
That's
and the
H4n.
promise of all your
Oh, okay.
Trey,
That's a recorder.
with this ring, you marry Karen.
I think that's all they had.
To hers. It is a symbol of
Okay.
your eternal love,
Solid,
your
actually,
everlasting friendship,
considering
and the promise of all your
how windy it is too.
Trey and Karen.
Like a sequence like this. I wanted to show some of it because it's like you have a sequence like this, and it really doesn't need to be in linear time. That's why you're editing. Like cut out some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use this film because one of the things I think when filmmakers are new is like this is a gift for your sisters, so it might not be the most appropriate, but for a lot of people, they make these films that are too long and they include everything in the highlight film. And I keep saying, I'm like, well, that's why you're selling all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Include it as a separate add-on. Give the couple, if you really are like, well, they won't buy it, fine, give it to them for free, whatever you need to do. But you don't
Make
need
the
to
highlight your strongest stuff.
Yeah, make it strong because that's where your clients are going to come from, and ultimately, like the quality of the film is affected by having really, really, really slow-paced, like kind of like, oh, well, what are we doing now? Oh, okay, we're gonna do this. It's like this. It's just not super, super dynamic. It gets kind of boring. So this is the thing. There are some moments that I'm like, this is really solid. And if this film was like 4 minutes, it would be so much better. So we're going to get to some of the portrait stuff right here. Even though I think there's something weird about the resolution on the camera, but maybe it was the export settings. And you got to get that background right there. So they're kissing, right? You're kind of going back and forth on your glide cam. Just make one clean motion.
Yeah.
And then also, like, it's obvious they're laughing, they're posing for a photo or something. Like, coming up here, you can see the groom, like, oh, we should take a photo? Okay. Kiss.
Yeah, so start that clip like 3 seconds in.
Yeah.
Once he's already going in.
Always watch. Is this person looking and interacting with me? I mean, I never want that unless it's on purpose where I'm like, hey guys, look at the camera. We're going to do a
right.
Like right there. That was almost a sweet move and you just cut off of it. They were walking.
Colin and Karen, we wish you every happiness.
We just want you to know how much we love you and Trey, and we're so proud of the two of you. We love you.
We love you. I don't think the song is really appropriate for what I'm seeing on the screen.
I always know that you're somebody that we can not talk for months.
And then I also think like having all these people speaking in the background but not showing them at all. That's a kind of a no-no for me. So.
And more of a no-no if the quality of the audio wasn't like super crisp.
It sounds solid.
Because sometimes just being able to see voices and mouths move.
That's true. I think in general, we have a rule in our own editing that like if someone is speaking, we always introduce the character.
Sure.
Even just for a moment, just to let people know like it's not a disembodied voice. So we'll skip ahead a little bit. I just think this song, why you have two songs in a row that are both like. That's not a gimbal movie. That's not a drone movie you want to keep.
So
it keeps recomposing.
I get the idea, but yeah.
Like simplify. You got to simplify. There's a lot of like trying a little too hard on things that just aren't gonna ever work. Simple is always better.
if you ever have kids.
All right, so we'll skip ahead to the reception.
Colin finally found his perfect match, and kind of that I found my perfect match in Karen too. I just could not be more happy for the both of you. I'm so proud of you guys and your relationship and everything you have gone through, everything you will go through, and just battle amazingly. And I can't wait to see where you guys are at 30 years from now.
Too long
Love
on
you
that
guys.
cake.
Colin and
It's
Karen,
gross.
I just wanted to say congratulations.
You don't want to show that much of people jamming food in their mouth, right, Kyle?
Yeah, a small little bite, maybe a smile.
Yeah, like keep it
on.
moving, keep it moving.
Colin, I love you so much. I am so happy that you found Karen. Karen, I love you so much, and just think that you are wonderful, and the two of you together, I love being around you and seeing the way that you
Great
guys
shot.
compliment
Love
each
that
other and are
It'd be
so
great to see
kind
who's
to
giving
each
the
other.
toast.
Pray
Yeah,
for
that's a
you,
good point.
and just hope you all the blessing and goodness in your future.
Little tip there: get better cups.
That might be the vibe, though.
Yeah, I don't care.
That's just
I'm not gonna. I just want to elevate my shots a little bit. And,
yeah.
You know, I look at this and go like, the worst thing about this is the fact that the song is so sad. And this couple is, look at that dude. That dude is a ham bone. These people are crazy, man. I want to see
They're taking shots.
The joy
on the
is,
ski.
you gotta like highlight the joy with these people because, and that's your sister, you know, she's a sweetie. And they did something fun at the end.
And just hope you all the blessing and goodness in your future.
And not a fan of that.
Now a Preston.
Whoop.
Congratulations! We love you! Guys!
That's fun.
Yeah.
So a couple things, I think, I'll give you a couple simple things that you should work on as a filmmaker, I think, to improve very quickly. First thing is just paying attention to what you're shooting and making sure it is exposed properly. I think also just intentionality with your editing. What are you putting in your film and for what reason? And is what you're doing matching what you're seeing on screen? Is the song matching? Is it this? And then I think also just cut all those cheesy titles. Like you don't need to include them. And the last thing is, I would say if you're flying a drone, most people flying a drone aren't typically swinging the gimbal around. They're trying to use the actual position of the drone. And it's the same thing with like when you're operating a glide cam or a gimbal or anything like that. Like really body positioning more so than kind of turning your hands or adjusting the head on or flicking the joystick. Like it'll make your motions a lot more fluent looking than when they're making these quick adjustments. And like you'll do like a fly-in move and the gimbal on the drone is like you're trying to track it. That's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so I would say simplify as a filmmaker and really focus on beautiful, intentional shots. And then once you get those down and once you get your exposures down and your storytelling down, then I think focus on all like the trick shots.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think part of simplifying is almost like dropping the gimbal. I think I tell a lot of people that is gimbal is widely used in the industry and there's a time and place for it. But I think for beginners,
it's a great tool.
I think it's a great tool. But I think focusing at this stage in the game, focusing on composition and intentionality, and the easiest way to do that, I think, is just bring a monopod and just focus on those shots. And I think audio probably upgrade would be great in the future.
A lav mic would help a lot. That would be my next tool. The H4n
for the
is perfectly
ceremony.
fine. I did weddings for years with an H4n.
I still have it. Yeah,
it's a perfectly fine tool, but I would say grabbing grabbing a lav mic like a DR10 or something would really help, and a lot. And I do think like get a gimbal if you want to do that, but you've got to practice that.
Yep.
So Zach's Life Production says, when do you guys usually go live? I'll get some questions. We go live Thursday, 1 p.m. almost every single week. Every once in a while we cancel. Join our mailing list to know, and we will tell you if we're going to do it that week or not. Maris Films says, where do I submit? I'm going to post a link. It's weddingfilm.school. And then there's a button up there. And
I like what Michael said. For the last 8 to 9 weddings, I've stopped using my gimbal. I've seen a night and day difference between the work.
Yep, I'm a big fan of the gimbal. Personally,
no, it's great. I use it.
I don't shoot that much with it.
Right.
I'm not a person. I might be on it. The funny story: the other day I got a wedding, and something had happened in the week, and man, really was a bummer because I opened this thing up and I have like 8% battery on my gimbal.
Oh no!
And I was like, what am I gonna do, right? So I was like, okay, let's try this. Let's do this. How little can I shoot on this gimbal? And I was like, okay, here's the shots I need. I got to get a shot of the bride as a portrait. I got to get a shot of the location. I got to get a shot of the ceremony location, like, you know, like a push in something. And I got to get some details, and I got to get at least 4 minutes of portrait. And I literally shot this entire wedding
on 8%.
On 8%, and I ended at the dance floor. Did one spin. I only did the shots I needed with my gimbal.
Nice.
And it's like, that's really what it is, guys. Is like, if you're
you know like when to use it. You're like, these are the moments that I could utilize this.
Yes, this is what I actually need. And some people do it all day, and some people, you know, but it's more so like, you know, is sometimes, like, for instance, I'll do a gimbal shot where I'll just walk down to the front, and then I'll wait for everyone to sit down, because you know how that goes at the beginning. Everyone stands for the bride, and sometimes they might be there forever. So I'll just stand there with my gimbal, and it's nice and stable. And when everyone sits down, I know my safety shots are clear, and I have a cutaway. Yep. Like, you can use gimbals in all kinds of ways that are not simply just loopy loops and doopy doops and zoom ins and zoom outs and like all the spins and stuff. Like, the tool is there to smooth out your motion, and it's a great tool. So, I'm always shooting gimbal and handheld these days. I don't even use a monopod anymore.
Yeah, I have it. Mine's collecting dust in the closet. So. Yep,
I'll even shoot, especially if you get like, I'll even shoot like a 7200 on like 150 mil on handheld now.
Sure.
Like, you know, you just stand there. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for submitting. I wanted to also, I'm gonna go ahead and post something in the chat, because I think a lot of people don't know about our other channel that we're running, but we have a channel for our podcast. And if you haven't seen it, I would say go check it out. We've had a couple really solid guests on, including Kyle Smith, whose episode is going live this week. So if you want to hear more from Kyle about his company, and about what he's doing, and you've been making wedding films like as your own for what, like 3 years, right, Kyle?
2019, so maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, and so he's gone from you know, brand new and with his own business to charging, you know, a very solid amount, being fully booked. So if you're wondering about that journey, you can listen to Kyle's podcast now, or you can head over to Wedding Film School show, subscribe, listen to our current episode that we have with Lindsay Conklin from La Rev. We did a 2-part episode about working with wedding planners and then working with photographers and how to create more referrals and generate more business. It's been really, it's a lot of fun. We also just had our friends at the Music Bed over there, and I would encourage you guys, if you want a discount on the Music Bed, we do have one over in, I think, our description. I would head over there, and whoa, what's going on? Did we lose connection, guys, or are we still live?
No, you're good.
Good. So head over there, and if you click in the description of our videos, and all you got to do is sign up for an annual subscription, the wedding subscription, and use our code, and you can get 1 month off the wedding subscription on the Music Bed, which is, in our opinion, and I think just not an opinion. This is not an opinion. This is just objectively pretty much the truth. It's the best streaming service for wedding filmmakers. They do a great job. And if you listen to that podcast we did with Daniel from the Music Bed, I think you're going to see that actually, like, as artists, you want to support this company. They do a great job as artists for artists, and if I'm all about that. I'm all about supporting artists. So, any last second stuff you want to say to the community? How you got everybody's ear right now, Kyle. You're going to have everyone on the podcast when it releases on Friday, so they can check you out. But why should they listen to your podcast episode, Kyle?
Well, I'm just a nice guy, and I work really hard, and I'm proud of what I do. So that's about all I got.
I mean,
check me out.
You're a great guy. I'll say this. I helped you with one of your films.
Jason did help me out with one of my films, yes.
I don't know if any of my... Actually, the shot that was on the cover, I was holding the camera.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of an iconic shot that I had in mind. I said, Jason, you better grab this shot.
Yes.
And he executed at the highest degree, and I couldn't be more grateful.
The episode with Kyle is about from 0 to 60 in 3 years, which is like basically taking a business from new to supercharged and efficient in 3 years. And I would say this, the answer is not exactly... we're being a little clickbaity because let's be realistic, Kyle. You weren't really new to wedding filmmaking, but you were new to your own company. So you had a lot of skills and experience and connections when you started your business. But it is helpful and it lets you see the importance of even the podcast we just did with Lindsay, which is relationships in the industry. So if you guys had fun, go ahead and like this episode right here on our live stream. It really helps it get out in front of people. It tells YouTube that we don't suck. And that people enjoy the content. Go ahead and share it. And if you want, join our Wedding Film School Facebook group. We'll have great interactions over there. Hopefully you guys had a great time today on the Wedding Film School live show.
Peace.